Well, hello everybody, and welcome once again to the Adventures Travel Club. We find ourselves today just outside the entrance to the Valley of the Kings, and this was quite something, right, Betty?
Oh, yeah. You know, as you look at that right now, Marv, it looked, well, we're kind of past it now, but it looked just like a postcard, like picture postcard we'd send home.
And this view that we have right here, we have to explain that they would not let us take our cameras inside the Valley of the Kings here. But this is sort of an aerial shot. It shows you some of the burial places there, and you can see that they're all around this particular area, and this was documented, of course, very, very well. And we should state that, the Valley of the Kings became the Theban pharaoh's burial place, and it continued serving as the royal necropolis until the end of the 20th dynasty. And that was the time, of course, of Ramses the 11th.
Oh, you're so smart, Marv. I swear, I don't know how you remember all these things.
He was the last pharaoh to be buried here in this valley.
Well, when I knew we were going here, I did a little bit of research, not a whole lot, but in the beginning, I had no idea that there were so many tombs there. Were you aware of how many were buried there?
No, I wasn't. And the thing was, I didn't realize that they were all different. I mean, every one of these, as you can see here from some of these descriptions that we have out of this book, that all of these were different because I guess they were different architects. Huh?
Now, do you suppose that after the first one was built, that each one tried to outdo the other one? Then if yours is good, mine's better, and then I'm better.
I don't know.
Than yours.
I think they tried to do that maybe with the pyramids, but I don't know about with the tombs. Yeah. But Betty, it's interesting because I think a lot of people believe that these tombs were really hidden, but they weren't. They were clearly visible, and they had a police force there that during the days when the tombs were built, that watched the road leading to this valley, and they inspected the entrances to the tombs because there were seals on those tombs, at the moment that the pharaoh was buried, and if they were not broken, of course, then nobody messed around with it. But unfortunately, quite early on, all the precautions that they took turned out to be useless.
Yeah, but they probably got complacent, just like we do here. Everything is fine. We don't lock the door anymore. We don't put the burglar alarm on, and powie.
Yeah, and then, of course, the things that we just saw there, a lot of those beautiful artifacts were, taken from those tombs. But this is interesting here because we can see the paintings, and you see, look how rich the colors are.
And after all those thousands years.
Yeah. It's amazing to me. And here we can see again another diagram of going into one of the tombs, and they do go quite far back into the mountain area.
But that's hard, Marv, even to see the illustration like this. And as we went into some of them, you didn't get the impression that they were as long and
no, that's right. You didn't. No, you didn't. And I think one of the reasons was because there were so many of the beautiful pictures there and hieroglyphics that really, you're just enthralled to see all of this.
Yeah, you tried to decipher, the picture, because all the pictures tell some kind of a story, and then some of them were stronger colors than the other, and they were more emphatic with their statement, but it's still hard to decipher.
Yeah, except the one thing you could decipher was the graffiti, and the graffiti was not of the tourist of this particular time, but the tourist of the Roman period. And they were the ones that left a lot of graffiti in there.
What was that bird? We were talking when it came on, and I don't remember that. That was the bird with the beautiful not feathers, but colors in it.
I don't know that one though that you can see in the museum up in Cairo, because that's where most of these artifacts have been taken. Of course.
Remember seeing this? Oh wow!
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, it just shows you that the artists of those days were absolutely incredible.
But look at how beautiful the people were.
Everybody went to do the same. All were arrested after less than a week. They were kept in Kenya prison. As for the two sons, one of them died and one of them was set free because he asked them if they set him free, he would show them another cachet, and he took nothing from it. Because he and his brother wanted to put an end to that very wealthy one first. Things anyway left by them, kept in Cairo Museum, 1881. I'll show you. In Hatshepsut Temple or near it, the place where they found those treasures. In this village, ladies and gentlemen, There are many tombs under houses, and recently they are constructing more and more houses to rehouse them. It's illegal for any one of them to excavate. Tombs of nobles, we mean, in which the daily life illustrated in details. The government gave them electricity 25 years ago, as you will see, but they didn't give them running water, which is very dangerous for the tombs. How to get water? They are leading very difficult life. Every 100 meters or less there are taps. And in this time of the day, you see ladies and kids going to get water. What about men? They do, but in the afternoon, most of them are working in the other side.
Well, we are coming to this area that we see there will be houses that are built over some of these, some of the tombs, and of course these were probably minor, not pharaohs that were buried under this. So, but this whole area is really exciting, even though it looks a little desolate. Huh,
looks
Betty?
terrible, boring right now. You know, it's just so arid. Yes,
that's true.
And last year they found 2 tombs in a place very near to us. And they excavated in the whole place, and they removed some buildings, and they closed the area, and they wrote no entry. Look at those tombs of nobles back there, and look at that sign here, where they wrote no entry. Most of these houses built in mud. And because it never rains here, you can see them in a good state of preservation over there. Now they are excavating. Do you see them? Some are working there excavating. 800 tombs could be found in the Valley of the Nobles. It's beginning right here. And there are more till we arrive the Valley of the Queens. I'll show you where also more later. And some houses are decorated, the facades. It's a house of a pilgrim. Look at those people down. Can you see them? They went to get water. What about men? Why they don't come to do?
Because they got wives to do it for them.
Why they don't come now to do? They do, as I said, but later in the afternoon. And be sure, here in Egypt, men are fighting for their equal rights. And always they lose. The second thing, we can see inside the house a tomb which is not used, or it was not finished. Just you see the design of it. Add to that, nothing wherever you see real antiquities, anywhere. But they are very good at imitating their grandfathers. And the best piece you see anywhere dated back to January 1997 AD. Bring your cameras, your video camera for 5 minutes. The house and here. Using it as a house where they live, 1 more floor up, and oven where they bake here in Upper Egypt, and opening in the middle where to put bread, 1 down for the fuel, 1 on the top as a chimney. And here the nest, so they have pigeons, as we can see here. That can show us the design of the tombs of the nobles. 1 small corridor, 1 bigger room. It was used instead of the mortuary temples for pharaohs. I said in the Valley of the Kings, none allowed to reopen the tomb. They could go to the mortuary temple of that one to pray for him, since he would be a god in the afterlife. What about nobles? They could be in that room down. Adjoining it, there is a room which should be closed. It's the burial room, where the sarcophagus should be put. Let me show you that. You can come back here, round. Just you go to that room to turn around to look at the end inside, the burial chamber.
Well, Betty, how would you like to have this in your somebody buried under your house?
Hey, I don't know. Maybe there is somebody there. Not to worry. Not to worry.
No, but this was a little interesting anyway to see that people had built over this. And of course, Betty and I looked around, and the paintings up there, of course, were not paintings from antiquity at all.
I love these things, though. Now, they've had many places like this.
Yeah,
but,
I think so. They were interesting.
Of some who are working together to make what we call new antiquities and you call fakes. Neither you nor me can tell any rough piece of them what to be in the future. They bring, anyway, these stones, and at the beginning of the work, the most important step, one who had to give it its first form, what to be, a statue, a vase, a scarab, whatsoever, anything they wanted. And after cutting it, if they intended to make a vase like this or that form or that wider one, they made sometimes a hole down, in which they put. And he can change them, it depends on the size. He can remove this nail and to use another piece or more pieces, and finally to chisel them as it is here. But before that, they put around it rugs, putting it in an oven, because next when they work more, they don't cause cracks in it, like here. Finally to use wax and to chisel them again. That is the final form of it. This one or that one, that is their handiwork, which is done here maybe the whole day to do. Carry both of them. But that one done by machine, it could be in 10 minutes. This is, they need the whole day. The other, carry this. Heavier. The other thing, or the last thing inside, how to make the details on a piece of limestone. That I want to show you in a minute. They use them to put the details, like the curves of hair, the lips, the nose, the nostrils, the neck, flowers, whatsoever. So they are from tombs, this one especially in the Valley of the Mountains.
Natural color, and this one here green alabaster. You see, green alabaster. Big size, all these by hand. A small size, this by hand. This is shine one by machine. This by hand also. This limestone by hand. Ramses and starting by hand. Basalt stone, a granite, soapstone, alabaster, all these by hand. Necklace here, all these by hand also. Alabaster, turquoise, amethyst, lapis, different material.
Well, Betty, we're going to go now over to close to the Valley of the Queens. What are we going to see here?
Well, we're going to see, first of all, the tomb of a beautiful woman. At least I think that was her tomb. It was where she was anyway. And she was the daughter of Thutmosis the First. Oh, gosh, these words, I mean, the names are so crazy.
Yeah.
And on the death of her brother, she assumed the throne.
The regency for her grandson, right?
Yeah. And then when she...
You want to pronounce her name?
No.
It's Septet.
Yes, I figure you list better than I do.
Thank you.
The temple we are going to visit called Hatshepsut Temple. It's one of the best Filoni temples you can see in this side of the kings. People doing that mostly in winter time. You can see many groups and sometimes they're riding donkeys. On both sides of the past few meters more, caves hewn out in the rocks, all of them tombs of nobles. To the left-hand side, Metropolitan's house, the American archaeological team who had been working in this temple on the second terrace till 1960, and they could finish the restoration of the temple. So still working now on the top terrace. and also the first one in need of restoration. It's unique, as I said, in its design. The rest of them as pylons, open courts, halls of columns, and Holy of Holies. This time, as we see in front, terraces. After the visit here, we will walk back. The bus will be waiting in front of Metropolitan's house. As you see, a lot of buses waiting for their groups. So nearly 5 minutes extra to walk later. Like they will walk up to the top terrace where you see many people, many groups. Because Queen Hatshepsut didn't like to fight and people enjoyed peaceful life during her reign, she sent commercial expeditions to different places, especially to the south, the east coast of Africa, and they called that land in hieroglyphic Punt, P-U-N-T, supposed to be Eritrea or Somalia of today because of the same products they have now. Also we see a beautiful chapel up there dedicated to the goddess Hathor, the goddess of beauty.
Well, Betty, I don't know about you, but I've been waiting to see this place for a long time. I've seen pictures of it. And you know, the site for this was very precisely, strategically calculated on where they were going to put this temple. It's situated not only in a valley that's considered sacred for over 500 years to the principal feminine goddess connected with the funeral world, but also on the axis of the temple of Ammon of Karnak, I guess, you know, and finally it stood at a distance of only a few hundred meters in a straight line from the tomb that the queen had ordered excavated for herself in the Valley of the Kings on the other side of the mountain.
My gosh, they surely concentrated on death, didn't they?
Yeah, that was really something in the Egyptian culture at that time.
She was one of the greatest rulers in ancient Egypt, and people liked her very much because she was a great builder. She built in many places. We saw her obelisks, statues in Karnak. She sent commercial expeditions so as to bring back to Egypt a lot of things which were not found, and some of them were not enough. Ivory, ortas, bulls, different animals, incense, henna, gold, and so on. The other thing, she restored many temples. They were attacked, destroyed by some invaders who came before her grandfather, and they ruled for a century and a half. Her temple fell down and covered. It was discovered in 1840 by Monsieur Nafil. Since that time, every few years you can see something could be restored. Up to now, they're still working up on the top terrace where it's written no entry. And there are many pieces of stones here and also on the other side, and some of them still with their reliefs, colors. They're going to put them up on the top terrace. Beginning with the left-hand side is chapel dedicated to the goddess Hathor, the lady of beauty, joy, music, happiness, pleasure, love, and dance. At the other end, a chapel dedicated to Anubis, the jackal god. Next to that one of her commercial expeditions, you can see the boats are coming, bringing the products of that country. And then taught the scribe god recording everything, while on the other part, the other half, what to show she had to be a ruler, she had to be a pharaoh, or what they call the divine birth story. I mentioned before the story of tomb robbers in the time of King Ramses IX. The mummies with their treasures were found in a big shaft next. When you go to see that chapel near them, Hathor chapel, the cow goddess, in front of it there is a tent down. Exactly in the place of the tent, they found them. Now let me show you some things in this half first.
You said that they imported the henna?
Henna to dye hair, you
yes.
know. Yes.
But where did they get it from?
From the land of Punt, supposed to be Somalia, Eritrea of today.
Well, Betty, what is your impression so far?
Yeah, I don't know, Marv. You know, you have to really evaluate it. It's just almost too much to take in. You do it after you get back on the bus or after you get home, and you realize the enormity of what you've seen.
And there was so much to see, and so that's why it's great to have these pictures to go back on. And we can relive this time and time again, so it's really interesting.
The main part of the whole story illustrated here, where you can see incense trees, bulls, again, ivory, mascaras, gold. Do you see them? And the figure of Hatshepsut was defaced by Thutmose III. He attacked her names, her figure, so as to deprive her of reincarnation. And we can see him here, instead of her, carrying 2 baskets and offering to the sacred vault of Amun. Here. And Venus in the time of the Greek and Roman rulers, one of her forms as a cow licking the hand of Queen Hatshepsut. Look at that. One of her forms, like on the top of the pillar here, a lady with the ears of a cow. By the way, this is the place in which they found the treasures 1881, in the place of the tent. I show you a very beautiful lactation scene inside. Here.
Excuse me.
Yeah. That cow and Queen Hatshepsut underneath suckling, it means the cow goddess providing her with energy and beauty. And the innermost place inside, which is closed, the Holy of Holies, in which a statue should be kept. A statue of a cow, and from time to time she came to pray and to leave offerings. After taking your pictures, you walk a few minutes more to the bus, because we will drive to the Valley of the Queens. So you take your picture now, and then we go there. In 15 minutes from now, nearly, we will drive to the next place. Muchas gracias.
Well, Betty, this particular area that we're in is the temple area here that she built. You know a little bit about this Queen Hathor. I mean, the chapel, rather, of Hathor, right?
Well, I know a little bit about it just simply because I did some research on it. But, Marv, it's so difficult to comprehend when you see the ruins and you see the graphics on the wall and stuff. But to understand their thinking in those days, I think it's very difficult. Now, on the vestibule of this hall, there were decorated scenes of the festivals in honor of this goddess. And then they had scenes of sacrifices to Hathor. And you have to remember, Hathor is represented as a cow. And she was the one who gave succor to the queen. She nursed her, and
that was a wet nurse?
That was a wet nurse, yeah. See, these are things that in our minds are, I think, at least in my mind, is just a little hard to comprehend. You almost have to put yourself back into that era so that you can understand the practices. And I suppose that's happened all through the ages, all the different customs that people have, that we would look back on and say, how ridiculous, or where could they come from, you know?
You know, it's going to be interesting when maybe in 1,000 years people look back at our particular culture and some of our customs and say, those people were rather weird back there in 1900 and whatever. You know?
If we're still around.
If we are,
that
right.
era. But you know, another thing about this, the decorations of the sanctuary, they were really dominated by this motif of the goddess Hathor, always represented in the form of a cow, nursing and protecting Hatshepsut, and by the motive of the queen offering sacrifices to her divine wet nurse. Now, ain't that something? Really.
It is.
And yet for them, this was a religious ceremony. It was very meaningful to them. And I shouldn't take it so lightly, but these are the things, like for my mentality. I think if you're not really a student of archaeology and of history, the Egyptian history, you do really have to do background study to comprehend it.
Yes, you're right. I think you do. There have been some wonderful programs that that one of the networks that we could mention as Arts and Entertainment has had on, and they've spent, of course, millions of dollars going back and doing the research and actually restaging some of the things, and it's really quite wonderful. But for us, it's really quite wonderful because here we are at the actual spot where all of this happened. And, I have always had, it's always been to me a mystery, the whole thing about Egypt, the pyramids, and then this area that we're seeing, and the other areas that we will see, Abu Simbel, as we go along with this series of the trip that we took there to Egypt. So some of the mystery now is a little cleared up more in my mind, because like you say, you have to listen, and then you have to sort of digest all of this because there is so much to see and so much to comprehend.
Yeah. Marv, the thing that is amazing to me too is we drive along in the bus, miles and miles and miles, desert, and then boom, we come into these magnificent edifices. It brings you back. Where did they get the materials? Well, I guess the materials were always there. Are they made out of the rock? It's sort of a cement limestone construction.
It looks like it's a sort of a soft rock.
Maybe limestone, but I think was that inundated with? It was inundated with water at one time, wasn't it, from the Nile?
Yeah,
that would make the limestone there. But anyway, I'm not an archaeologist, but I'm astounded at the works that they've done. And I think we went to England and we saw What did we see? The
stones?
Yeah.
Stonehenge.
Stonehenge. That was headstones. Stonehenge.
Well, that's what they look like.
Yeah. But and we marvel, just absolutely marvel at that. And it's. Well, I guess that's comparing oranges and apples, so.
No, but that's it. Like you say, you look at the various civilizations, and here we go back 3,000 years, and even going back maybe 100 or 200 or 300 years, and you're going to see things that to us today don't quite make sense because our civilization and our cultures, are quite a bit different in some ways, but in other ways they're very, very similar.
I think we've borrowed a lot from the ancient cultures, and also, especially architecturally, I know many of their designs are copied by our artists of today, our architects.
Oh, sure, yeah. And you remember there one time when the Egyptian thing, I remember my mom telling me about back in maybe it was the early 20s or whatever, that the Egyptian architecture again became very, very prominent in this country, and a lot of things were fashioned after some of the things, of course, what we have been seeing here. So, and I guess that the pendulum swings one way and then another. Hey, we've got to about wrap it up here, Betty. We should tell people that we've got some trips coming up for the Adventures Travel Club, and if they're interested, they give you a call at
488-7443.
That's right. So give Betty a call, and we will see you next time on the Adventure Travel Club. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.